President Ronald Reagan recognized the PLO during his lame duck session. That means in 1988, when the elections were done and George Bush was elected and Ronald Reagan was about to leave office, in December 1988, he recognized the PLO. President Obama, when he was in his lame duck session between the elections of 2016 and when he was supposed to leave office in January of 2017, he abstained at the UN from at a resolution that called upon or condemned Israel's settlement activity.
Apart from the American domestic issues, the American administration of Biden, Blinken, and Harris' unlimited support to the mass murder of Palestinian children in Gaza and the West Bank, and the stroking world war by getting much involved in the Russian-Ukraine crisis at the expense of the needs of the American citizens, may have led to this absolute defeat of the Democrats and the landslide victory of the Republicans led by Donald Trump. How this would impact the future of the Palestinian cause and the region in general. To highlight that, I'm pleased to have with me Palestinian-American lawyer, poet, and writer and activist, Mr. Fadi Zenaid. You're welcome to our program, Mr. Fadi.
Thank you for having me, Osama.
You're welcome. We saw today how Donald Trump achieved the landslide victory against Harris and the Democrats, but some people say that analysts should not exaggerate what Trump could offer to the Israeli occupation government when it comes to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, because Biden did offer everything to Israel, nothing more Trump can offer. What do you think of that?
Well, I think the effect of Trump will be that he'll be much worse than what Biden. I think not only will Trump give Israel whatever weapons it needs, but he will also allow Israel to annex the West Bank, if not Area C and maybe Area B, but the entire West Bank. That's the difference that the effect of Trump's election is. Whereas the Democrats probably would not have allowed Israel to annex Area C and B, Trump might.
Yes. And Mr. Fadi, we saw how he achieved a victory in Michigan and other states where we have many Arab votes. Don't you think that there were a kind of agreement or deal between Trump and the Arab community and the pro-Palestine voters there, that he would change his policy this time when it comes to Israel-Palestine, to work for, in a way or another, for peace? Don't you think that there was a compromise or a deal of some kind between the Arab community in the United States and the Trump?
I don't think there was a major push for Trump by the Arab community, although there was some push. There was a committee, an Arab American committee for Trump that tried to make a push. But I think the sentiment in the Arab American community throughout the United States is that they did not want to vote for genocide. They did not want to vote for Biden. They didn't want to vote for Harris because they believed that she was an enabler of genocide. I looked at it in such a way that about 2 weeks ago, I decided I am going to vote for Harris, and that I'm going to try to push the community to vote for Harris, because a Trump presidency would be the worst case scenario for the Palestinians in Palestine and for us here in the United States. I don't think there was an agreement with between Trump and the Arab community. As a matter of fact, I don't think that many would have spoken to him about anything. We tried to meet with Harris. I personally met with Governor Walz for a limited photo opportunity on Saturday, and did call for him to ceasefire, call for a ceasefire, and stop aid to Israel. But it's hard. No, I don't think there was any agreement between Trump and the Arab community.
Yes. Now, you mentioned that Trump could help Israel or support Israel to annex the rest of the occupied West Bank at a strategic level. But if we talk about tactical steps, don't you think that Trump might push for a ceasefire and stop the bloodshed and the catastrophic situation that our people are going through in Gaza because of the Israeli aggression?
Well, I certainly hope that he would push for a ceasefire. I hope he has more leverage than Biden had on Netanyahu. But we have to look at what Trump has said during this conflict. And he told Netanyahu and the Israelis to finish the job. That does not mean that he's calling for a ceasefire. So I hope that Trump's common sense would prevail, but given what his comments, I seriously doubt it.
Yeah, and if we talk about the larger scope of the situation in the Middle East and about the Israeli Prime Minister, and we saw the changes that he made to his government yesterday, removing his Minister of War, Gallant, preparing maybe for a major attack against Iran, because Netanyahu always talks about his dream of destroying the nuclear program of Iran. Do you think that the success of Trump is going to play into the hands of Netanyahu? Especially today we were watching videos from Israel celebrating the winning of Trump.
Well, Israel has for a long time been trying to prod the U.S. into attacking or entering into a war with Iran. That's known, and he's certainly going to try. Trump has signaled that he doesn't want to start any wars, but from what we know, Trump always gives Israel a green light. He has allowed Israel to, he allowed the U.S. to change the capital from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, change the embassy there. He's allowed Israel to annex the Golan Heights. Given his past, it seems likely that he will allow Israel to do whatever it wants. And we know that the major contributor to Trump's campaign, Mrs. Edelson, gave him $100 million with explicit, I don't want to call it an agreement, explicit quid pro quid to annex the West Bank.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Trump is going to allow Israel to attack or get into a war with Iran, but he just might do it. He might just do it.
Yeah, but during his electoral campaign, he stated many times that had he been the president of the United States, he would not have allowed the war, for example, between Russia and Ukraine, or what's happening here in our homeland. Don't you think that he's gonna interpret these slogans into facts on the ground? Do you rule out that?
Well, I believe that he talks a tough talk. And I hope that he would put pressure on Israel to restrain Israel from further escalation of the conflict in the Middle East. He says he's going to do it, but we're just going to have to wait and see what he does. I hope that he will call Netanyahu and tell him to put an end to the war in Gaza, allow aid to enter Gaza, and just stop all this nonsense, all this killing.
Yes, and Mr. Fadi, we know that Trump was the mastermind of the diabolical deal of the century, announcing Jerusalem as the capital of the occupation power of Israel. From your own perspective, what is demanded from the Arab world now? I mean, the Arab world and the Arab governments, in order not to let the deal of the century pass and force Trump in a way or another to recognize the rights of the Palestinian people to a state on all of the land occupied in 1967.
I'm having trouble hearing you, but I think your question is, what is the role of the Arab world in terms of a peace? Is that the question?
Yes, not to allow Trump to go ahead with the deal of the century and excluding the rights of the Palestinians to the land occupied in 1967.
Well, I think the role of the Arab governments, especially the ones that have a peace treaty with Israel, like Bahrain and Jordan and Egypt, and potentially Saudi Arabia, who Israel wants desperately to have a peace treaty with. I think they need to put pressure on Israel, maybe threaten to pull their diplomatic missions or embassies from Israel in order to put pressure on them not to allow Israel to annex the West Bank. I fear that may just happen. I think the Arab governments have to step in with monetary funds, try to help the people in Gaza with aid as much as they can, and put pressure on the U.S. to put pressure on Israel not to take measures that would escalate the tensions in the Middle East.
Yeah, and my final question to you is like a follow-up question. We talked about the role of the Arab governments, the role that they have to play to pressure Trump, to pressure Israel to stop genocide and recognize the rights of the Palestinians. What is demanded now from the Palestinians, the Arabs, the supporters of the Palestinians' rights in the United States in order not to allow the coming administration by Trump to provide all the support that Israel takes to continue its colonial project in Palestine?
Well, one thing that I am pushing today, after the election, is for the recognition of the of the PLO or the Palestine at the UN. Now, there's been precedent for that. President Ronald Reagan recognized the PLO during his lame duck session. That means in 1988, when the elections were done and George Bush was elected and Ronald Reagan was about to leave office in December 1988, he recognized the PLO. President Obama, when he was in his lame duck session between the elections of 2016 and when he was supposed to leave office in January of 2017, he abstained at the UN from at a resolution that called upon or condemned Israel's settlement activity. Now, President Biden has a tremendous opportunity to recognize the state of Palestine at the UN during his lame duck session. He is in his lame duck session right now after the election and before he leaves office. There's a clear precedent for that, and we're hoping that the activism here in the United States would move towards that so that we have some sort of diplomatic victory out of this. We still have the Palestinian community here in the United States has to organize and make the progressive wing of the Democratic Party stronger, I believe. There's a strong push in the Democratic Party for Palestinian statehood, and we need to strengthen that wing of the Democratic Party.
Okay, Mr. Fadi Zenaid, Palestinian American poet, writer, and activist. It has been a great honor having you on our program. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Osama. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And ladies
Bye-bye.
and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. And from you, Osama Nazal, have a nice time.